Hey everybody, this is Perch, and it's the Perch Show. Um, I did a video a while back, right before Agatha, all along, the Agatha Harkness Disney Plus TV show for people came out, and there was a lot of drama when it was first coming out, and there's still some people trying to create some drama about this show, but most people have kind of moved on. And what I've noticed is that for the MCU in general, this is how a lot of the commentary and the kind of the drama and the narrative and the talking around it goes. There's a lot up front before it comes, and people generally look for like a handful of interviews where invariably some actor or actress is saying something crazy, and then they'll make hundreds of hours of content on that. I'll give you an example. This is not an MCU show, but kind of proves my point. The Snow White remake with the I don't remember the woman's name. It keeps coming to my head as Dolph Ziggler, who is a wrestler, and it's definitely not her. But that the name is similar enough. But I want you next time you're seeing one of these videos of, this woman who was kind of, I'm sure, high off her ass when she gave the interviews that you've now seen a million times talking about the patriarchy and Snow White or whatever the fuck she did. I want you to think of Dolph Ziggler, the wrestler. Why not? Let's have some fun in life. Anyway, the WWE really tried to get old Dolph over. It just didn't work. But anyway, but the movie, the most horrifying part of that movie, and keep in mind, we don't even have the movie. I don't think it's come out. It may have come out and I missed it. But we've seen more trailers now, and it's a CGI nightmare. I mean, the thing looks terrible. But you don't see that many, you see a few people, but not that many people talking about that. The actual material quality of the movie looks awful. But we're still going back to some interview of her on a red carpet going, "What? The men saving women? What?" And being goofy. And this is really kind of how a lot of YouTube works, how a lot of channels work. It is, you take comments before it comes out, usually a few months before it comes out. And keep in mind, my feeling is that a lot of people in Hollywood, a lot of actors and actresses and writers and everything, I think they are horrendously both bored and paranoid and terrified. And what I mean by that is the industry isn't doing amazing, and it hasn't for a long time. It is one of those things where you get a job and it works for a bit of time, and then you're replaced almost out of nowhere, and one flop will kind of do you in. And unless you've made some kind of satanic bargain like Tom Cruise has for his looks, most people it's a very fickle industry. And so if you've ever met, people who are actors and actresses, and I've known a few, by and large, they exist with a kind of aura of, paranoia and tension. They're some of the most uptight people I've ever met. I've met, people who are investment bankers. I've met people who own startups. I've met and actors and actresses, actors and actresses by far the most paranoid and kind of nuts where that's concerned. It's just the industry that it's in. So my feeling is a lot of them go out to give interviews and they just say crazy ass shit. I don't know if they actually believe it or not. I don't care. I'm not saying, oh, you don't have to, if they say something terrible, you should excuse them because they're just scared little kids. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, there's a lot of the stuff that comes out wacky, I think comes out wacky by design, because that's what they're doing. I may be wrong. It is a pure theory. I know John Heater, and that he is a great guy, by the way. Not weird, not spooky, not anything, but a lot of them exist in a lot of stress. I have a very good friend who's a very popular YouTuber, who's had multiple nervous breakdowns and is just it's tough. Even in that space, it's tough. So I predict that's where it's coming from. But anyway, my point is people will give lots of interviews, and if you comb through hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of videos, interviews and comments, you're going to come up with some stuff that just sounds batshit crazy. And the people asking the questions to debate them, like we saw with that Agatha show. You saw this guy is this the gayest show ever? And then these actors and actresses who are like, I don't know. I mean, borderline nuts. I mean, they're like, yes, it is. Of course. I don't know they're trying to make a joke, but they don't have script writers in front of them, so they're like completely lost in some cases. I mean, it's a shit show. Is where that's at. So, my point in all this is you see these videos and these commentaries that come out before the show was out. And then once the show is actually out, most people run for the hills. There's a couple channels who will like keep digging in, especially if they feel like they've got, like if the show is super cringy or whatever, like, people have made an entire cottage industry over Rings of Power. And they're like, we're going to review every effing episode and we're going to talk about how crazy it is. And each episode's worse than the last. And, there's somebody always gets to be the target. The Acolyte got the same treatment. But I'm not seeing it for Agatha. No one's really going through the motions. And you typically don't see it for the MCU. You don't see people do it episode by episode. Here's what's happened. In a negative way. You do see those videos for like what I call the very boring, like explaining the episode. We don't need it explained. We watch the episode. What did that ending mean? It meant the credits rolled. What's wrong with you? I hate those videos more than anything else. So I've been watching Agatha with my kids. Actually, to be specific about my younger daughter. My older daughter could not give a fuck about that show. But my younger daughter is enjoying it because she really liked WandaVision. I don't know why. She hasn't traditionally liked the MCU, but she liked WandaVision. Actually, she liked Ant-Man and the Wasp, hated Quantumania, liked WandaVision, and then hated Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, and likes Agatha. I don't know what that means. It doesn't make any sense to me. But she liked all those shows. She also liked Once Upon a Time, that old TV show, and she's liking Heroes now, that old NBC show Heroes. Which, by the way, it's written by Tom Kring, and as I'm watching that, I'm like, I like Tom Kring better than Tom King, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so we're watching this show, watching it with her, and I don't know what, I think we're 5 episodes in now. They just revealed that, shocking, the teenager in the show is Wiccan. It's Billy. Who could have seen that coming? They're like, me, before the show even launched. And I remember when I did the video on this, I was kind of mocking the outrage over Agatha. And I've since, by the way, been showing, every now and then I show my kids like a movie from the 80s or 90s. And it is amazing how many of those movies have jokes about lesbians in the show. And every time you get to a comedy of the 80s and the 90s, lesbians are portrayed as like hot, sexy girls, usually in their early 20s, who just want to make out and, that. And so every time there's a scene and they're like, oh, those girls are lesbians. They're like swimsuit models. My older daughter especially, turns to me and she's like, those don't look like the lesbians that we see now. It must have been different back in the 80s. I'm like, it was. It was different. It was a different time. Anyway, be that as it may. So I made this video joking about this show, and then now I'm watching it, and so I'm going to follow up with it. This show isn't bad, okay? I understand that some people are like, look, he's simping for Marvel again. But if you put all the Disney Plus MCU shows on a list, and you have like a line of the above the line, below the line, the top 50 and the bottom 50%. Agatha is in the top 50%. It's better than Secret Invasion by a wide mile. I think it's more coherent and better than Moon Knight. It's better than it's better than the Miss Marvel show, which was just goofy in just its structure and everything else. It's weird because as you're watching it, you're like, this is one of the better MCU shows that Marvel has done. And it's just kind of wild that this show, here's why it's better, by the way. It's better because it knows what it's trying to do. It is incredibly simple. The show is basically this. Agatha was defeated by the Scarlet Witch, had her memory taken away, living a normal life, gets her memory back, tries to get her power back, cons other witches into traveling through some kind of trial test in order to get her powers restored. Shenanigans ensue. That's the show. It's not much more simple than that. It has horror elements that are Disney Plus friendly, which means not at all. It has a couple interesting parts. You've got, a person I think, that they're portraying as either Blackheart or Death from MCU, who's kind of hanging around being creepy. You've got not good acting, but, reasonable acting. And it just knows what it is. You compare it to something like Secret Invasion, which is just the drizzling shits of a show, which is trying to be a spy show, but also a resistance show. And I like that. That thing is a mess. And so if you compare the two, you find yourself like, this is, again, I'm not hailing this, and this is like the worst review. If you were Marvel, you would not put this Perch quote up as a review of the movie. This movie is not interesting, but it knows what it's supposed to be. And it more or less sticks to that and then puts out content. There you go. That's the flattering praise I'm going to give it. So if you see the Perch says it's a super awesome show, like, okay, that was my super awesome review. The show sticks mostly to what it's trying to be, which is not terribly interesting, but better than Secret Invasion, says Perch. It's just, but what I find fascinating about it is, again, you don't see people really reviewing the actual show. You see people reviewing the idea of what the show could be. You see people reviewing comments that interviewers scrape out of the actors or actresses before the show comes out. And you see a lot of speculation about what the show is. And you'll see in the comments, by the way, and please have some bravery or some balls and say, I haven't watched the show, but here's what I think. Or I have watched the show, here's what I think. I mean, just and most people won't make it to this point in the video. But you're going to see comments in there about, nope, that's woke bullshit. Did you watch it or did you listen to YouTube videos on it? By the way, it's totally okay if you're like, this doesn't interest me at all. I'm not going to watch it. That's fine. But don't pretend you know what the show is about if you never watched it. It's perfectly fine to say, I've watched enough Disney shows, I'm not watching more. Or I looked at the trailer, it wasn't for me, not into it. Looks like crap. Totally legit. But, what is, I think if you're going off of a handful, or not a handful, thousands of videos that declared it, this is the biggest piece of garbage without a single episode airing because of interviews. I mean, again, you're just getting a goofy picture of what the show actually is. Now, I'm not suggesting you run out and see this show. If you do, be prepared for a very mid show that somehow is in the top 50% of what I'll go one further. By the way, I'll blow your minds. Show is probably in the top 25% of MCU Disney Plus shows. And that is not a ringing endorsement of the shows. It's weird. I need to look at a full list actually of Disney Plus MCU shows, and I'm scared to a little bit because I'm scared of where this show is going to land. I don't know. Again, it works, and one thing I did legitimately like, and I thought was clever. At the very beginning of the show, they're revealing that Agatha is living this fake identity, but she doesn't know it, and so they make it out like a lightweight, expanded cable cop drama, and that's funny. I mean, it's legitimately funny how they do it. All right. I'm looking at this list of MCU shows, and then we're going to end it here because this is not going to go well. Okay, Loki season 1, better. Okay, that was better than Agatha. We'll give it that. Loki season 2, I don't know. That's a tough one. What If? Cartoon, not going to count it. The Cap and the Falcon and Winter Soldier. Probably better than Agatha. Probably. Hawkeye. Probably worse. Agatha's probably better than Hawkeye. Agatha's definitely better than She-Hulk. It's better than Miss Marvel. I liked it better than Moon Knight. Some of you out there like Moon Knight, but I thought that thing was just a mess. I like that character, but it was a mess. Better than Echo by a mile. Better than Secret Invasion. WandaVision, it's probably better than WandaVision in terms of it's not trying to overcomplicate things, but WandaVision was a better show because it was trying kind of different elements, and there's some. Plus, it was shorter. Or was it? I don't know. They're about the same. So I don't know. It's in the top third. How crazy is that? Again, not a ringing endorsement of the show, but still, I mean, straightforward. No pun intended. Anyway, let me know what you think. Have you watched this show? Did it live up to the woke panic stuff? Let me know in the comments below. And if you didn't watch the show, but you're just not into it, that's okay too. Let me know that. Thanks for listening.